The Galactic Coalition Military Hospital never truly slept. Emergency sirens echoed through polished corridors while med drones floated overhead carrying plasma packs and surgical trays. The latest border skirmish had flooded the station with wounded soldiers from half a dozen species. Among the chaos moved Nurse Zyla, her emerald skin glowing softly under the sterile white lights. Humans were still new to the galactic community, mysterious, unpredictable, and the patient lying unconscious on her table was the first one she had ever treated alone. The chart read, Sergeant Alexander Wilde, human. Status, stable head trauma. Zyla studied him with curiosity. Humans looked powerful. Broad shoulders, dense muscle structure, thick bone mass. Even unconscious, the man seemed built for conflict. His vitals? Zyla asked. The lead physician glanced at the monitor. Strong, remarkably strong. Human physiology is resilient, he smirked slightly. Clean him up and monitor neural recovery. Zyla nodded. Standard procedure. She filled a basin with warm sterilized water and began carefully cleaning the dust and dried blood from the soldier's arms. Her fingers brushed across dense muscle fibers unlike anything in her own species. Fascinating. Humans evolved on a death world, right? She murmured. Correct, the doctor said casually. High gravity, dangerous predators. Their bodies are overbuilt. That much was obvious. Zyla continued the sponge bath, moving methodically the way she had been trained. Then suddenly, she froze. Her eyes widened. Between the human's legs, something was happening, something rapidly changing. The biological structure there was expanding. Fast, alarmingly fast. Zyla dropped the sponge. Doctor? She shouted in panic. Something is wrong with the patient. The lead physician rushed over. One look at the situation, and he burst out laughing. Not just a chuckle, full laughter. Several nearby nurses turned, immediately realizing what had happened. The entire medbay began snickering. Zyla stood there in stunned confusion. I don't understand, she said carefully. Is this not a medical emergency? The older nurse beside her wiped tears of laughter. Oh, sweetheart, no. The doctor grinned. That's just a human biological reflex. Zyla blinked. A reflex? Yes, he said calmly. Congratulations, nurse. It seems your patient finds your care stimulating. Zyla's face flushed deep violet. Her eyes darted back to the unconscious human soldier. The mysterious swelling had not gone away. If anything, it had gotten worse, and for reasons she absolutely could not explain. She suddenly wanted to understand humans much more. Behind her, the vital monitor beeped steadily. Strong, stable, powerful. Then unexpectedly, Sergeant Wilde's fingers twitched. And slowly, the human began to wake. Zyla had no idea her life was about to become very complicated. Sergeant Alexander Wilde woke like a soldier. Fast, eyes snapping open. Breath steady. Instinct scanning the room before his mind even caught up with reality. White ceiling. Medical lights. Strange alien equipment. Hospital. His gaze locked onto the emerald-skinned nurse standing beside the bed. Where am I? He rasped. Zyla nearly dropped the medical tablet she was holding. The human's eyes were intense, focused, alert, in a way that felt almost predatory. You're in the Coalition Military Hospital, she said carefully. You were injured during the skirmish. Wilde processed that in seconds, then smiled slightly. Guess that explains the headache. Zyla blinked. Most patients woke confused, panicked. Humans apparently woke joking. You suffered a serious cranial impact, she explained. You were unconscious for 3 days. Wilde whistled softly. 3 days? Damn, Command's gonna love that. He shifted slightly in the bed, testing his body. Every motion was deliberate, controlled, like a warrior checking damaged armor. You shouldn't move yet, Zyla said quickly. Your body is still recovering. Wilde glanced at the monitors. Heart rate strong. Oxygen perfect. Neurological response already stabilizing. Looks like I'm healing fine. Zyla frowned. That is medically impossible. Wilde shrugged. Human thing. Before she could respond, the door slid open. The lead doctor stepped inside. Well, well, he said with amusement. The famous Sergeant Wilde returns to the living. Wilde gave a small salute from the bed. Wouldn't miss the party. The doctor checked the scanner readings and shook his head in disbelief. Incredible. Your neural recovery rate is nearly double the galactic average. Wild grinned. Death World genetics. The doctor chuckled, then glanced at Zyla. Though I hear there was an interesting situation earlier during your treatment. Wild raised an eyebrow. Oh? Zyla's entire face turned purple. It was a misunderstanding, she said quickly. Wild looked between them. Slowly. Then realization dawned. A mischievous smile crept across his face. Oh, that situation. Zyla looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Wild leaned back against the pillow, clearly enjoying the moment. Well, nurse, he said casually, I appreciate the attentive care. Zyla refused to meet his eyes, but something strange was happening. Her pulse had increased, her breathing felt uneven, and the human soldier watching her looked entirely too confident. Then the monitor beside him suddenly beeped louder. Heart rate rising. The doctor glanced at the screen, then laughed again. Well, looks like the problem is happening again. Zyla slowly looked down and gasped. The human reflex had returned, even stronger this time. Wild groaned. Ah, hell. And Zyla realized with horror, this recovery was going to require a lot more supervision than she expected. Over the next several days, Nurse Zyla noticed something troubling. Sergeant Wild was recovering too fast. Human biology made absolutely no sense. On day 4, he was standing. On day 6, he was walking. By day 8, he was already requesting combat fitness tests. No, Zyla said firmly. Wild leaned against the therapy room wall with an amused grin. You're telling a soldier he can't train? I'm telling a patient he can't break medical protocol. Wild folded his arms. You know I fought in that battle, right? Yes. You know humans specialize in frontline operations? Yes. Then you know sitting still is torture. Zyla sighed. There was something exhausting about human determination. Fine, she said finally. Light mobility exercises only. Wild grinned like he'd just won a war. The physical therapy room lights flickered on as Zyla guided him through controlled stretches. She tried to remain professional, but it wasn't easy. Humans were intense. Their bodies carried a constant sense of contained power. Even injured, Wild moved like a predator stretching before a hunt. Balance test, Zyla instructed. Wild stepped onto the stabilizer platform. The machine tilted. He adjusted instantly. Perfect equilibrium. Zyla checked the readings. Reaction speed. Exceptional. Wild smirked. Told you. But then something unexpected happened. Wild suddenly lost balance. Zyla instinctively lunged forward to catch him. They both crashed onto the padded floor. For a moment, neither moved. Zyla found herself lying across his chest, very aware of how solid the human felt beneath her. Wild's voice came quietly. You okay? Yes, she whispered. Neither of them moved away. Their eyes locked. The air between them felt strangely charged. Then, the door suddenly slid open. Nurse Zyla, a cold voice said. They both looked up. Standing in the doorway was Dr. Haxon, one of the hospital's most strict senior physicians. His eyes moved from the tangled pair on the floor to Wild, then back to Zyla. His expression hardened. I see, he said slowly, and the tone in his voice made Zyla's stomach drop, because she realized immediately this was going to become a very serious problem. Dr. Haxon's presence hung over the med bay like a storm cloud. Nurse Zyla moved with practiced precision, but every glance at Sergeant Wild made her pulse quicken. Humans were unpredictable, even more so when injured. Their reflexes, their sheer resilience, the subtle ways they adapted to stress, it was unlike any species she had ever treated. You'll follow my instructions exactly today, Zyla instructed, guiding Wild through a controlled mobility drill. Of course, nurse, he said, his grin betraying amusement. Wouldn't want to disappoint my favorite caretaker. Zyla's cheeks flushed, but she focused on the task. His muscles flexed under controlled tension, each movement precise, almost perfect. She noted the micro-adjustments he made to maintain balance, the way his core engaged instinctively. It was human engineering at its finest. Behind the observation window, Dr. Haxon scribbled notes. His sharp eyes missed nothing. He saw the way Zyla hesitated when adjusting Wild's posture, the lingering touch that was more than professional, and the subtle glances she couldn't quite hide. You're making this too easy on me, Wild teased, his tone casual. but his eyes flickered to the glass as if he sensed the watchful eyes outside. Zyla narrowed her eyes. Focus on your recovery, Sergeant. That's your priority. A sudden alarm beeped from the monitor. Wild had pushed too far during a resistance test. His heart rate spiked. Zyla acted instantly, moving to stabilize him, her fingers pressing at the right points, her mind calculating the human thresholds she barely understood. Dr. Haxon's eyebrows rose. Human resilience. Remarkable. He muttered under his breath, impressed despite himself. Wild chuckled softly. I told you humans are terrifying. Zyla's pulse raced. He was alive, strong, alive despite everything, and she couldn't deny the thrill of working with someone so uniquely capable. But she also knew if Dr. Haxon reported her career, and Wild's care, could be jeopardized. Every touch, every glance, every subtle interaction was now a high-stakes game. And yet, she couldn't stop watching him. The day ended, but the tension didn't. As she prepared to leave, Wild caught her hand. Careful, Nurse Zyla, some humans are stubborn. But some, his gaze softened, are worth the risk. Zyla's chest tightened. He meant more than recovery. She nodded, trying to maintain composure. Behind the station's walls, danger and scrutiny waited. But so did something else, a human's unbreakable strength. 2 days later, Wild requested a private session. Zyla hesitated. Dr. Haxon's suspicion still loomed like a shadow. But she could see it in Wild's stance. This was not just recovery. This was human determination, and he intended to test its limits. All right, she said, leading him to the training floor. We'll start with controlled resistance. No sudden exertion. Controlled, yes, he replied, flexing subtly, the power in his frame obvious even beneath the standard issue uniform. But you know humans don't recover halfway. We adapt. Zyla couldn't help but marvel at him. Every movement was calculated, every adjustment efficient. He wasn't just recovering, he was optimizing himself. She guided him through a series of stretches, measuring strain, monitoring vitals. His body reacted faster than she predicted. Microtremors indicated fatigue, but not failure. Every fiber of his being resisted weakness. Then Wild pushed further, ignoring her caution. Zyla caught him mid-motion, stabilizing him with her entire body pressed against his. Her breath hitched, but her mind stayed sharp. This human could crush her if she faltered. Yet she controlled the situation with methodical precision. Outside the observation window, Dr. Haxon's eyes narrowed. He could see every motion, every controlled touch, every hesitation. His suspicion grew. Zyla was bending protocol. But what he didn't understand was this. Humans thrived under pressure, and in Wild she was witnessing it firsthand. As the session ended, Wild grinned despite sweat beading his brow. You're good. Damn good, he said, panting. I like my recovery challenging. Zyla's fingers trembled slightly, not from exertion, but from the raw vitality emanating from him. Humans were dangerous, not just physically, but emotionally. They could stir parts of a person she hadn't experienced before. And Dr. Haxon was still watching. By week 3, the hospital corridors whispered about Sergeant Wild's miraculous recovery. Alien medics marveled, but some whispered behind Zyla's back. She spends too much time with him. She's compromising herself. Zyla ignored it. She had a mission, bring him back to full operational capacity. Yet the attraction, the undeniable human charisma, made every interaction perilous. Wild's confidence, his physical strength, and his subtle challenge to her control made her acutely aware of how fragile her professional boundary had become. Then one afternoon a critical test arrived. Zyla, Wild said, a hint of seriousness creeping into his usual teasing tone. I'm ready for endurance drills today, push me. Her heart hammered. He was recovered enough that a misstep could lead to injury. I don't think that's advisable, she said cautiously. Are you afraid I'll beat you? His grin was infuriating, but his eyes glimmered with something more. Trust, dependence, respect. Zyla clenched her jaw. Humans weren't just strong. They provoked competence in anyone around them. Every decision had consequences, and today the stakes were higher than ever. As the drills began, Wild's body moved like a well-oiled weapon. Zyla guided, corrected, restrained when necessary, her mind racing with calculations, adrenaline surging. The danger wasn't just physical. The scrutiny from Dr. Haxon, the hospital board's possible interference, the fine line of trust and personal feeling, all of it made this one session feel like a battlefield. By the end, both were exhausted. Sweat coated their bodies, breathing synchronized, and Zyla realized humans were more than fragile or exotic. They were formidable, alive, unpredictable, and in wild. She was witnessing the apex of human potential. Dr. Haxon's shadow loomed over the observation window. He scribbled something in his report, the tension thick in the room. Zyla met Wild's eyes. He smiled faintly, silently daring her to ignore protocol again. She swallowed hard. Humans weren't just challenging, they were intoxicating, and she knew the hardest battle had yet to come. 3 months had passed since Zyla's first encounter with Sergeant Wild, and the medbay was far busier than ever. A new problem emerged, and it wasn't medical. The Galactic Council had sent observers from multiple species to study human combat performance. They marveled at humans' adaptability, endurance, and instinctive problem-solving. But imitation was inevitable. Other species began replicating human drills,
behaviors, and even rehabilitation methods.
Zyla watched in stunned fascination as junior officers tried to humanize training protocols, safety rails, rest cycles, even motivational speech. But they missed the subtle cues humans relied on instinctively. Wild, for his part, remained unshaken. "They don't get it," he muttered during one session. "Humans aren't just about following instructions. We improvise. We adapt." Zyla nodded, understanding the depth of his words. Every time she guided him through exercises, she saw human instinct outperform training simulations. Micro-adjustments in balance, the subtle engagement of core muscles, the way fatigue was managed with precision. These weren't things manuals could teach. Then came the incident. An alien trainee miscalculated a maneuver and nearly toppled while during a combined exercise. Zyla reacted instantly, stabilizing him in one fluid motion. Her mind calculated force vectors, angles, and weight distribution in milliseconds. A perfect counter to human spontaneity in motion. The observing species gasped. They had seen strength, speed, endurance, but they hadn't seen humans respond with intelligence under real stress. Wild grinned despite sweat streaking his brow. "See, this is why humans are dangerous. Not just physically, mentally, everywhere." Zyla's heart raced. Human ingenuity wasn't just survival. It was mesmerizing. And the galactic observers were starting to notice. But Dr. Haxon's shadow still loomed. His disapproval now mingled with curiosity. The stakes weren't just professional, they were political. Could human adaptability survive galactic scrutiny without creating conflict? The Council scheduled a full-scale combat simulation for humans and their imitators. Medbay staff were on alert. Casualties, real or simulated, were expected. Zyla prepared Wild's protocols with meticulous care, aware that a single misstep could endanger him and their credibility. "You ready for this?" she asked, adjusting the straps on his exo-support harness. "Always," Wild replied, flexing muscles coiled like springs. "Just follow my lead, nurse." Humans win by thinking ahead. The simulation began. Aliens mimicked human strategies, but Zyla noticed flaws immediately. They followed the motions, but missed the human intuition that made even simple exercises adaptive. Wild executed a perfect tactical pivot, dodging a simulated hazard and recovering balance in a fraction of a second. Zyla monitored his vitals, adjusting support and applying stabilizing techniques where needed. Every reaction was a calculated improvisation, yet executed flawlessly under pressure. "Humans aren't just physical," she murmured. "They anticipate, calculate, adapt in real time." The alien observers scribbled notes furiously. Some species panicked. "Impossible," one muttered. "Their recovery is beyond us." Then disaster nearly struck. One trainee overestimated a maneuver, toppling a scaffold that could have pinned Wild. Zyla reacted without thinking, leveraging her strength and leverage to hold him steady while redirecting the scaffold. The entire room held its breath. Wild steadied himself and gave her a brief nod, a silent acknowledgement of human skill and the unbreakable human bond between soldier and medic. Dr. Haxon, standing at the edge of the observation deck, frowned. Even he couldn't ignore the precision, the coordination, the subtle communication between human and Zyla. Could other species replicate that instinct? Or was human adaptability simply untouchable? Weeks later, the pressure intensified. Human soldiers' rapid recovery and unorthodox techniques drew envy, skepticism, and political scrutiny. Zyla noticed Wild pushing harder than ever during training. His resilience was staggering, but she detected microstrains in his body, subtle signs that most species would overlook. Humans were extraordinary, but they weren't invincible. You're overdoing it, she warned, adjusting a support brace along his shoulder. I've got to be ready, he said. We don't know what they'll throw at us next. The medbay was tense. Observers whispered about human anomalies and unpredictable adaptations. Dr. Haxon had escalated his scrutiny, his notes becoming increasingly hostile. During a high-intensity drill, Wilde executed a maneuver beyond anything expected, a combination of strength, balance, and rapid decision-making that left alien trainees floundering. Zyla's pulse raced as she stabilized him mid-motion. Every calculation mattered. One wrong move, one hesitation, and he could have been seriously injured. Afterward, Wilde leaned back, exhausted, sweat dripping, breathing ragged but eyes alight with triumph. Humans aren't just strong, he said. We innovate. We survive. We adapt. Zyla allowed herself a small smile, her admiration tempered by worry. Humans were brilliant, yes, but brilliance carried risk. One slip could be catastrophic. And Dr. Haxon's scrutiny? That risk was only growing. Could human innovation survive under constant observation, political pressure, and the very real danger of injury? Or would Zyla and Wilde be forced to confront the limits of human resilience? The Galactic Council had arranged what they called the Ultimate Assessment, a full-scale simulation blending combat, medical crises, and environmental hazards. Every species sent its best, and the humans were under scrutiny like never before. Zyla checked Wilde's vitals one last time before he entered the arena. His chest rose and fell steadily, muscles taut with anticipation. He trusted her judgment, and she trusted his instincts. This is it, she murmured, adjusting his harness. Remember, it's not just strength that wins this, it's intelligence, adaptability, and staying calm under pressure. Wilde gave her a confident nod. I've got this, nurse. And I've got you. The simulation began. Alien opponents moved in coordinated attacks, traps activated without warning, and environmental hazards shifted unpredictably. Human soldiers, guided by Zyla's insights, moved with precision, improvisation, and resilience that shocked the observers. When a heavy energy panel collapsed near Wilde, Zyla reacted instantly. With a precise sequence of tugs and pivots, she redirected the panel, using its momentum to shield him while keeping him balanced. Every instinct, every calculation, every human reflex mattered. Observers whispered in awe. Humans weren't just strong. They anticipated, adapted, and mastered chaos itself. At the simulation's climax, Wilde faced a near-impossible scenario. Multiple opponents, limited cover, and failing terrain. His body screamed, every muscle straining. But Zyla's voice in his comms kept him precise. He reacted like no other species could, exploiting micro-opportunities that others hadn't even imagined. When the dust settled, humans had not only survived, they had dominated the simulation. The council murmured, their astonishment palpable. Zyla's expertise had amplified human ingenuity, making the impossible achievable. The council would recognize this, but would admiration turn to interference? The council's deliberation was intense. Observers argued about human unpredictability, a double-edged sword. But one truth was undeniable. Human soldiers, guided by skilled medics, were unmatched in adaptability. Zyla watched Wilde as the announcement was made. Human performance exceeded expectations, the council proclaimed. Your methods will be studied across the galaxy. The room erupted in murmurs and applause. Galactic recognition had been achieved. But the victory came with scrutiny. Dr. Haxon had followed every step, his disapproval simmering. He approached Zyla in the aftermath, his voice tight with frustration. You've gone beyond protocol, he said. This could destabilize our standards. Zyla met his gaze calmly. Dr. Haxon, humans thrive on adaptability. Our methods are precisely why we succeeded. Strength isn't enough. Strategy, intuition, and partnership matter. Wilde stepped forward, standing tall beside her. We aren't just soldiers and medics, he said firmly. We're humans, we adapt, and together we're unstoppable. Haxon's face darkened, but the council's recognition shielded them. For once, human ingenuity had forced even the strictest alien minds to acknowledge excellence without compromise. Recognition brought fame, but also new challenges. Could humans maintain their edge under galactic pressure? With the trials behind them, Zyla and Wilde returned to the station's medical wing. Their bond had strengthened, forged in adversity, danger, and shared triumph. Zyla observed Wild during rehabilitation, noting his precision, strength, and resilience. Every adjustment she made, every instruction she gave, amplified his natural capabilities. Humans, she realized, didn't just endure, they elevated each other through trust and collaboration. Wild caught her gaze. "You know," he said with a grin, "we proved something out there. Humans aren't just survivors. We're innovators, problem solvers, unbeatable when we work together." Zyla smiled, brushing a hand along his arm. "And we've only scratched the surface. The galaxy doesn't know what we're capable of yet." Days turned into weeks. Humans were celebrated, studied, and respected. Zyla and Wild remained a living testament to the power of human instinct, teamwork, and ingenuity. Standing together on the station's observation deck, they watched starships streak across the void, the endless expanse a symbol of boundless possibility. "Where do we go from here?" Zyla asked. Wild took her hand, his expression unwavering. "Wherever humans dare to go together." The stars outside seemed to pulse in response, a galaxy ready to witness the unstoppable force of humanity. And as Zyla rested her head against Wild's shoulder, she knew one truth above all: human courage, ingenuity, and connection could shape the universe itself. The journey had begun, and it was only getting started.